Hi, everybody. Welcome to What Does Marketing Look Like in 2022 and Beyond for a Digital Business? So, we thought it would be really cool, for us, to do a series of these webinars, which we've decided to call the Digital Transformation Sessions. So, when we look out at what's going on across social media and indeed across business, there's lots of people that are stating the problems, but very few people seem to be talking about what the solution to those problems is. So we thought that we would share some of our thinking around this. So this is a series of before Christmas, 3 webinars, which will take us up to the end of next month. So the first of them today focuses on, would you do the next slide, please, Tim? Thank you. So the first one today is on marketing. So we're going to look at what does marketing look like for a digital business moving forward from where we are today. And then in a fortnight's time, 2 weeks later, we're going to be doing a similar 1 hour webinar on sales and what the sales need to be cognizant of to be appropriate and effective in 2022 and beyond. And then lastly, at the end of November, we're going to be doing the third and final of these before Christmas, when we're going to talk about the board and governance for the entire business, and how does the board need to think about being digital? What does that mean to be a digital board in 2022 and beyond? And how do they need to drive those changes across their organization? So please do put your comments in the chat if there's anything that you'd like us to reference. But we've had a number of clients that have said to us a kind of problem statement about where they are. I can turn that off now, actually. Yeah, and they've said that that for them, marketing doesn't seem to be working in the way that it once did. And it's led them to a situation where there is no pipeline, there is no sales. They're having to spend more money just to effectively tread water. So higher costs for marketing, higher costs for advertising, higher costs for events, and then not getting a higher return for those, which makes obviously the business less effective. Now, our view, as you probably know, is that social media has changed the world. It's changed society. It's changed the way we do business. It's changed every single element of our lives. It's made such a transformation in everything that we do and the way we think. But have businesses changed? Have businesses embraced this and made this front and center of what they do as an organization, how they communicate with their prospects, with their clients, and indeed with their staff as well? So we believe that to be effective, organizations need to be digital organizations, which is very different. This is not about adding an app or making your website e-commerce. This is about thinking in a truly digital way. So the first question that I, as the compare, am going to ask is, what is a digital organization? Tim, what is a digital organization?
I think most of us are used to the term around social selling. Most people have, read a magazine article or a
Read a
book about
book.
it. I was going to say a book about it as well. Um, the and the thing is, and most people kind of understand that there is a mechanism that you can use social media as a way of ultimately getting conversations with people, building relationships, and then moving towards commercial interactions. So ultimately selling stuff. But that's only really a piece of the pie. What social allows you to do is completely transform your organization. So we see social relevant within human resources. How do we do that? Well, what we do is that we start talking about our culture and the fact that we believe in diversity and inclusion, the fact that we have sustainability. And what happens is that people read that content, they go, oh, that's interesting. That looks like a good company to work for. And then what happens is that you start getting the pick of the talent. Ultimately, you're going to get costs savings because you're going to drive out the cost of recruitment consultants and advertising, which is, a massive cost to any organization. But you're also going to get the pick of the talent. And then you can move across and you can start thinking about procurement, the way that you buy things. And because we have an empowered sales force now, the procurement people are not going to be keep getting hit with buy my stuff because it's great and pitching. What they're going to do is that they're going to build relationships with their suppliers. And if you think about the way that things have worked in the current over the last 2 years with COVID, you may have a manufacturer in Korea, and all of a sudden they've got a lockdown and the whole of that factory basically is shut down because it's got COVID. And you have to find a new manufacturer, and you've got to get one quick, and maybe you're going to find one in Germany or whatever it is. But what we're seeing is this mechanism of using social across the whole of the organization. And for a business, why would you do that? Because it strips out cost. What we're seeing is process efficiencies by actually using social. So I remember the days when we started using computers as a way of actually stripping out cost. Now we're actually seeing a complete transformation in business because we're using as a way of getting more efficiencies and doing it at low cost, which is the way that we've always wanted to run business. So it's a long answer, but I wanted to get that in and go into quite a lot of detail so that everybody who's watching this can understand where we're coming from a digital organization, digital business perspective.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So let's drill into the marketing department. Are we saying that marketing needs to change, Brandon?
Yeah, I think that marketing, like anyone else in any other department, when we hear the word change, we get scared, we get nervous, because systems are great, consistency, routine is great. The challenge we have in marketing departments is that the outcomes have changed on us also. And so if the outcomes are changing, then we need to look and think and start deciding where we need to change. So two things that makes me think of is a lot of times when I'm talking to organizations, and we, obviously social is a big part of the conversation around marketing. I like to do this and show people and go, hey, we're not asking you to completely change. We just need you to do this. And I go, you just got to tweak the focus a little bit, right? And it's because, similar to what Tim just said, an analogy I like to use is when we started hearing about these things called fax machines, we didn't shift to them overnight. We started testing it. We got one in and saw who was using it and how it was working. And the outcome became, hey, we're using both, right? But we're saving money here. We don't need to FedEx documents. We don't need to put a stamp on something and have it get there in 4 or 5 days. We can fax it and have it there immediately. And then there was this shift where every department had a fax machine. And then the fax machine became, on the back end as email. And we could scan documents and put them in a PDF and ship them out. Then all of a sudden we started looking at, what do we need to do digitally to do this thing more efficiently? And that's the same thing that we're saying right now. The days of your demand gen processes, the days of your advertising processes, the days of driving traffic to the top of the funnel and having a pretty accurate understanding of, for every $10 we put in, we're going to generate $200 in revenue or profit, or however your model looked. The challenges with email marketing, with advertising, those numbers have shifted and they're on a downward trend. And so, yeah, we need to take a look at, what do we do differently? And it doesn't have to be just a complete radical change overnight, but you got to start testing, beta testing, and comparing, and let the data help you make your final decisions.
Okay, so marketing has to change. So what do they actually have to do, Eric? What does marketing actually have to do? Because clearly the old things that it has been doing in that sort of legacy way aren't operating as they used to, and I think most marketers would recognize that now.
Indeed, thank you, Adam. I think David Packard sort of started the rot by saying his famous quote, "Marketing is too important to be left to the marketing department," which started the rot set again about then. Everything started to fall apart when David made that thumping comment. Because you talk about what do they need to do, what do they need to change. Once upon a time, marketing were put on a pedestal, right? I even remember my early days in sales where if marketing isn't clicking in our organization, we're in trouble. And they were clicking. It was marketers were carving out could be in many organizations the most valued department in the organization. Huge swathes and floors of multi-talented people with all these qualifications and all this experience really driving the way. But suddenly the clicks started to slow down a little bit and not getting quite so sparky, and a few misfires along the way. Till we get to the horrible position where I had a C-suite leader talk about his marketing team as being the colouring in department. And when I asked them to explain what they were talking about, it was, well, they make brochures and they make colourful things for us to send out to prospective clients, but nothing much more. So putting a 2020's filter over that, there's a beautiful study that's come out from Edelman. We love Edelman, Edelman's Trust Barometer, and there's a beautiful slide in their latest Trust Barometer, which it's about earning trust and credibility. So that whole shift of focus from visibility, adverts, get as much stuff out there as we can, as much interruption as we can get, to actually focusing on the key terms of trust and credibility. And there's a lovely slide in that report, which we can perhaps put in the chat later on. 64% of buyers say that an organization's thought leadership content is a more trustworthy basis for assessing its capabilities and competency than its marketing materials and product sheets. Just hang on that for one beat. 64% of buyers are saying that your organization's thought leadership content is a more trustworthy basis for making conclusions and judgments about you as an organization than your marketing materials and product sheets. That's thumping.
Than a vacuous a narrative that says our product's better than anyone else's, buy our product.
Absolutely. So with that lens put over what Edelman and other massive assessment houses around the world are telling us, which all matches up, then mirror that with a lot of the stuff that we see, which is marketing running around and being overwhelmed and not focusing on that trust and credibility angle, focusing on doing more stuff. We need to do more stuff. We need to do more adverts.
We need to do more campaigns.
Lots more campaigns. We need to do, we're doing offline advertising. We need to online advertising too. Chuck that in, see if that goes. Mobile marketing, SMS. Let's see if we can get email marketing, list building, get all the direct mails and advertising and dynamic price.
Spaces, TikTok.
Just chuck everything.
But what you've said is an acknowledgement, is that the people that are behaving that way acknowledge that the things they're not doing, the things they are doing are not working. And they're running around in a terrified state, trying to work out what they can do differently. So, but what happens for those organizations, and you've encountered them, and I know that I certainly have, that say, actually, our marketing's doing a really great job. Marketing is working for us. We get a 40% open rate on our emails. And you can't just say, no, you don't. Nobody gets a 40%. Because the truth is that you don't. It's like when someone's got a dreadful profile and they say, I get 3 bits of inbound a day. No, you don't. You simply don't.
Well, you're absolutely
selling
right.
Takes a long time.
You're absolutely right. We're well past the stage where we need to stop all the noise, all the waste, and all the frantic running around, grabbing for levers that may or may not work. It's about refocus. So we as a collective fundamentally believe that marketing should be back where it once was, right front and center.
Yep.
Front and center, driving innovation, driving the thrust of organizations. Marketing should be, as Tim put it, that digital organization, that digital transformation. Marketing should be the stagecoach drivers right at the top of steering the whole organization throughout. After all, as we've said before, they've led the commercial transformation to date. So we'd like to see them continue with that. So organizations that are saying that it is working, we really need to ask the question, where is the innovation? There's a great quote from Nick Law, the guy that was responsible for Nike and Beats marketing, and it's quite a fresh statement. I quite like it. And he says, as marketers, we find ourselves in a position where, because of our original timidness and lack of courage, we're on the back foot. Right now, we've gone from being a very arrogant, insular industry to one that feels under siege. The whole marketing industry feels under siege because organizations, C-suite, shareholders, investors, and bankers are looking to, right, okay, we're not getting as many leads, we're not getting as many orders. This is a marketing problem. We're going to go to marketing and saying, what are you doing? And they're already steaming at the ears, trying to, chuck more coal into the steam engine. And everyone's going, come on, marketing, you're the guys that are supposed to be creating this demand for our products and services. So the board need to be, I believe, and I think we believe, because we've discussed it before, that there needs to be a sort of an all stop, take a beat, take a moment to assess, and start to ask the right questions. How do we get the innovation into our marketing for the 2020s? What does marketing actually mean today? What does it mean? It used to mean something in the 90s. It made something in the noughties. What does it mean for the 2020s? What does it mean? And start to assess what's going on out there. I think going back to the first principles of creating demand. Marketing used to create a demand, and I think more often than not, certainly I see that marketing have become that team of people that when something's created, they then work out how they're going to take it to market. What we need to see more of is the old-fashioned sleeves up. Let's create markets. Let's create them. Let's start them from fresh, because there are opportunities to do this in this new digital world.
Absolutely. So what does this new marketing look like, Tim?
Well, I think that I mean, I would use the term demand generation as well as marketing. I mean, there seems to be a that term as well being used, certainly in the sectors that I work in. Yeah, but marketing right now, they need to get a strategy. So, we know that the things that they're working, the responses of those are gradually coming out, and they need to make that shift. But they need to get a strategy about, rather than just throwing mud at the wall and hoping it will stick, are we going to do TikTok or Clubhouse or Spaces? They need to decide what they're going to do and what they're going to focus on. So where they're going to place their bets. Now, there's some traditional stuff that they will always do. Companies generally want to have a website. Companies generally want to have a brochure. Whether they use them or not, we can argue that in a different session. But what we do know now is that the research shows that people come to social to be social. They don't come to social to read brochures. So the marketing need to stop putting out brochures because people are just going to ignore them. And what they need to do is start empowering the people within their business to start sharing content that the people have actually created themselves. And that content needs to include stuff about the company, stuff about the products, but also stuff about the people. We know that people buy people, and that's always been the case since the beginning of time. So how is it that we're going to get people to actually go onto social media and be themselves? That they are a unique selling point.
So that's a change in shift. That's a change in focus. It is
a change in shift, yeah.
Because that's asking marketing to not necessarily be leading the way on the output, but facilitating the support for the transition to become a media organization.
Yeah. So yes, absolutely. So what we're looking for is, salespeople or people in human resources or people in finance, procurement, whatever it is, when they first start blogging or start sharing articles, they're going to want help in terms of what is it that is actually what is it that's actually going to resonate. Give me some ideas. Tell me tell me the things that I need to be talking about. Tell me the keywords that I need to be using. So that when this content gets indexed by Google, it's going to appear on page one, and we're getting our Google juice and we're getting the SEO capability. And of course, whenever they use that empowerment, they need to educate. And they need to be front and center of educating people to use social in the right way. Of course, we also need to measure that as well. The great thing about, in the old days, what happened was that the only way the business could actually work out what was going on was by looking at the CRM. And most people's CRM are just full of hopes and dreams. So if you're, as a business person, as a board member, trying to work out, am I going to invest in 5 more people, or am I going to invest in that machine? You would look at the CRM to make that investment decision. Now what you're able to do is actually look at far more leading indicators from social that gives you far more visibility down the demand gen supply chain to actually make sure that you can see that the salespeople or the people that you're working with are actually contributing. because it's far more transparent in what's happening. And it's really important for marketing then to take that information and present that to the board and say, this is what's happening. In effect, what they're doing is that they're putting up binoculars to what's going to happen. And they're going to say, you know, we're heading towards the iceberg, or we're heading out to the open sea, and this is what we need to do as a business.
I
and
think
they can be front
Brandon,
and center to that driver. Sorry.
I think Brandon was going to add something when you were talking about measurement. I think Brandon was going to jump in.
That's that's okay. You know, I obviously I get excited. So sorry, Tim. I was like getting real excited, but
I get excited as well.
I know you were, and I just wanted to let you keep going. But then, you know, I'd start to, you know, physically jump in there. So, you know, as you were saying that, it reminded me of, so I started in my marketing background in the 90s, started around print, because, you know, that was a leading technology. It was an inexpensive, or not necessarily inexpensive, but it was an effective communication tool. And a lot of organizations had their direct mail or their print team that were the experts in that space of the company or that division. And they worked alongside marketing, but marketing wasn't the direct mail, the print experts. They always had somebody internally that led that with best practices and training and insight. And I think we're in a similar, I mean, walk along a little bit with me. Marketing's role, as you said, Tim, they need to equip, and they need to empower, and they need to coach. And like you said, I think marketing, doing the research and knowing what the right topic should be, and stopping where currently they write or create and then go, here, share. What they really need to be able to do is say, here's a lot of research, here's something we wrote internally. But the most effective thing all of you can do is to read this and then write it for yourself, curate it if you want to look at it from that perspective, but help create the foundation of content and wisdom and thought leadership and everything, but empower the team in the most effective, easy way, which includes coaching and training, to put that into their own voice. Because everything we've been talking about, everything we know, Tim, you just said it, people buy people. And there's a big disconnect when when an individual regurgitates what the company prepared versus when that person just takes a few minutes and rewrites it and goes, you know, I read this, it's important for this reason. Here's 3 key takeaways. Engagement goes up, readership goes up, the perception of that person as a industry thought leader goes up. And what happens is they create micro demand in their personal communities. And that's the new form of demand gen. It's a new form of marketing, because one big funnel isn't really producing anymore. Or even if it is producing, it's not as cost effective as empowering each person to become their own little funnel.
Well, we've never seen that not be the case, have we? In all of the people that we've worked with, we've never.
Yeah, well, I was going to just use an example where 2 weeks after using our coaching, one of our clients, they had someone walk towards them and say, "We have a problem. We think you can solve it." Now, take a step back. We know buyers are on social media looking for advice and help, because it's the best place to go. You can get insight. You know, you got a board report to write, you can find one online. You can, you know, the deck or whatever. And what this buyer was doing, actually went to the sales leader and said, "You look like you can help me. Can you do that?" And they got into a discussion. 3 weeks later, they signed a $2.5 million deal. And that's from the client walking towards the salesperson. I mean, it's unheard of in this world of interrupt and broadcast. And can I have 20 minutes to do a discovery call? Because of the fact that what you're getting is people looking for advice and help, seeing someone that can help them and walking towards them.
Well, it's really, so a moment ago, Eric used that term about businesses becoming media organizations. And I love that, because you've used that before when we were having a conversation, Eric. So do you want to just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, one of our clients, they're in the sort of industrial inspection space, had that sort of epiphany moment when started looking through social, not just at social, looking through social at what social media could mean for their business. So when the entire C-suite started pulling apart and starting to really think, so initially this organization thought, I know, we'll get into social selling because that'll get us lots more leads and that'll be cool. Then they got to that. Then they got to that point.
It would be.
Yeah, that's really cool, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. So they went in thinking this is all about lead generation. Halfway through their journey on this, they started questioning how they were structured as a C-suite. They started questioning how they were structured as a business. They started thinking about all of the pillars that they had built within their organization, and all the, and in some cases, pillars, silos, and barriers. So this disconnect that we see a lot between marketing and sales, actually implementing strategic social media across the organization kind of like naturally, organically dissolves those, because suddenly these people have to be joined at the hip and they're working on really exciting stuff together. HR are involved, procurement are involved, customer service, everyone is involved in this. So this C-suite sat above this and looked at this and said, this is changing everything. And the CEO of the organization wrote a piece of content which exists on LinkedIn today, and it's been put through other platforms as well, where he had this epiphany and he thought, I need to put this out here, that in the 2020s, if you're the CEO of an organization, and he said, I don't care what size it is, I don't care what sector it is. Yes, you're a functional CEO in your sector, but you're also the CEO of a media organization. And in many cases, a social media organization. You're the CEO of a social media organization. So I love that. We all love that, because there's a modern thinking CEO already saying that, wow, what a shift. There was a day when I could just focus on shareholder value and investments and where all the money's going and all of that. But actually, I've now got a foot in both camps, where I need to be looking at how we're presented on social media, how we are facing social media, and what we are extracting from social media. What does social media enable us to do as an organization? And I thought that was a wonderful piece.
And I think, Eric, that opens up the opportunity for marketing to lead in that area. You gave an example of a C-suite taking that on, and it probably came out of necessity, right? Because nobody else in the organization was doing it. But because social is currently in the marketing demand gen's domain, if they shifted, and that's why I was saying, like, just look a little different. They looked at it and said, hey, this is a powerful communication tool that we have underutilized, but let's take a step back and do some strategic look at how we can leverage it and lead. Then marketing can become, as Tim said earlier, to become the hero again, or I can't remember who said, but they can become that hero again. And Eric, that's a great example at the C-suite, but if an internal marketing leader started leading that way, I think a lot of power and prestige and kudos would go back into the marketing department.
Absolutely, I completely agree, because that visionary ideal, Brandon, of let's embroider and weave social throughout our entire organization. It might sound a little bit grand that the CEO is going to say, I'll do this on behalf of the organization. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So there's the opportunity, as we said, to get marketing right in there. I'll take this. I'll run with this. I'll lead it. Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I think the nice thing is that for a long time, PR and advertising and that stuff, which you yourself referred to, Brandon, as top of funnel, you did do it rather tongue in cheek when you said that, is stuff which is a bit warm and fluffy. It's like, well, people will see the brand and they'll start to like the brand and they'll recognize the brand. And all of that is stuff which is extremely difficult to measure. But we are in the age of data, and at the end of the day, what we need to be able to prove stuff. Saying that X number of people have viewed this is much more powerful than saying we should have been seen by X number of people. So talk to us a little bit, Brandon, about measurement and what that means.
Yeah, and I think that, this is a way that we can help marketing as well. I think there's Marketing has been conditioned or experienced, if you will, over the last 10 to 15 years of measure, data, which is great. The challenge with social is there's a perception or a belief that outside of social advertising, you can't collect the data, you can't measure social activity. And technology allows us to do more and more of that. And we can capture data that is similar or analogous to a lot of the sales data that we capture already. So if we look at a lot of and I'll just say the older school KPIs of how many calls did you make, how many people answered, how many conversations did you move down the opportunity pipeline, how many emails did you send, how many responses did you get, all of those KPIs that are, the activities, the touches, if you will, that sales needs to do.
Visual up for this.
Yeah. And as we move into social KPIs, there is very important KPIs that are analogous to the other touch, right? A phone call touch. And in sales, even if you make a call and you leave a voicemail, there's still value to it because you left that touch. You got your name, your company name, you shared a little message, and you've asked them to give you a call. And emails go out. If they're open, they're read, there's value there. But in social KPIs, we can look at what targeted connection requests have you sent out? If you have named accounts, especially, who are you connecting with or seeking connection? Who has accepted your connection? What type of social engagement have you done with them? Because if you engage with them in social media, number one, I can't call somebody every day and leave a message and not be perceived as a bit of a stalker or a pain or a pushy salesperson.
Yeah.
But I can engage or be seen in social media every day by those same targeted people, and I can be seen by a lot more people with one message or one social post or one post that I write or an article I share or engagements that I do. So marketing has the ability to capture the KPI data, move it directly into CRM alongside the other touches, because we know that's important. Even if CRM is got larger perceived value than it actually does for a lot of companies, we can still take that data, put it in at the contact level, at the account level, and demonstrate its contribution to a win, demonstrate its contribution to new appointments, new meetings, new demos, and of course, revenue.
That must be music to everybody's ears. The ability to be able to tie what you do in terms of outbound and demand gen to actually tangible things that you can take to the bank.
It's only music to your ears if your ears are open.
Really
Fair
good.
enough.
Are we saying that we throw, and I know you love this one, Tim, are we saying that we throw away the legacy measures, MQLs, SQLs, those two departments fighting and blaming each other? Is it time to ditch that?
I love what you say, Brennan. I think it's great because I've spent my life uncovering salespeople scams and how they can basically scam the system. Like phoning up your mother and putting it down as a call and stuff like that. But the thing about digital is it's yes or no. Yeah. You either made the connection or you didn't, and it's binary. It's binary. And this is and I love what you were saying about marketing being front and center. They can drive this. This is what they can start doing and picking this up and start running with it. And this talk about MQLs and SQLs, really, I think we should kind of park it and move on, because what we now have is a set of measures where it's very, very clear. And if marketing generates a lead, they know where it's come from, what's happening, but more importantly, they can see how the salespeople have taken it and then developed it or not. So the key thing is that MQLs and SQLs are great. It gives a common language. We can understand what a lead is, because a lead isn't the same to everybody. But what we still have is this siloed approach where sales say the leads that we get from marketing are crap. And what marketing can now do is actually prove that is right or it's wrong. And that's what I like about the way that you articulate and the way that we're doing this new digital measurement within marketing.
Yeah, and I think if marketing, sorry, can I respond to that real quick? Yeah, and I think if marketing position themselves well to empower and equip and coach sales, customer success, whoever it may be, to have that consistent voice, an effective voice, not give me your brochure content, I post it, but give me feed me things. Like one of the things that we train customers to do is marketing, send them 3 questions over a week and say, everyone answer these questions in the form of content, write it, speak it into your phone. And the map is, say why it's important, say who it's important to, and say, here's the 2 or 3 takeaways I think you should pay attention to most. That form of content and marketing being the foundation of that, you don't need an MQL anymore. You can break those silos, and collectively as a rev ops team, if you will, these are collectively the leads we're generating. They're higher quality than we've done before. They're moving quicker through the funnel or a pipeline. And guess what? We're winning more deals. And the one thing with data, and SAP did this a while ago, and I still love the number, and I don't, the numbers may have shifted, but the foundation of this logic is still there. Salespeople who sell from this perspective with social, sharing content, being a thought leader, people coming to them going, I've been reading your stuff and I think you can help me. Their deals are larger average deal sizes. They're more likely to hit quota because of that too.
And what we find, Brandon, is so often there's no competition.
Right.
You're in effect not having to close. What you're doing is that you're enabling the buyer to buy.
Yeah.
And that is transformational for sales, because you're not, it's not about win-loss anymore. It's about win-win-win. You know that the number of deals that you're going to win is just going to increase.
But marketing are going to be scared by this, aren't they? Because often marketing have got a very polished and visual and mellifluous view of the world. They have agencies that create, or an in-house team that create the visual materials that are sent out. They spend ages refining and polishing the brochures, using the right words, using the right photography. This is the foundation of how large, valuable brands communicate with their audience. And now all of a sudden we're saying, well, actually, it's great that we've got a marketing department that spends £100,000 on a photo shoot in order to populate this brochure with images. But now you are going to go out for a walk in the morning and you're going to take a photo of our new phone on the ground because it's a lovely backdrop. So this is a huge leap of faith, isn't it, for marketing?
Huge, absolutely massive. And I think it stems from the fact that as consumers, we've all got a lot wiser in what we like and what we don't like. We're fed up, right? There was a time back in history, in the 20s and 30s, when advertising started coming out. We didn't know how to deal with it, so we just went with it. Now we're very picky, and professional consumers, the buyers, are just as picky. They know what they like, they know what they don't like. And the data would suggest that right now is that the world doesn't like bland, cold, boring, sort of like what we would call in the past corporate content. I don't know if corporate content is quite the right description of it, but the stuff that's out there, which is clearly, here's the thing, this is what it does. If you'd like to buy one, give us a shout. People are glazing over that. People are walking past. The data that we have, the data that all the other big analytical houses have, would say that people are just walking right past that with blinkers on.
But marketing have to break their attachment to this slick corporate look, don't they? You know,
very much so. Very much
brand. So. We're a £20 billion company, and you know how we portray ourselves in the public domain is absolutely crucial to maintaining that brand value.
But if you're a 20 billion brand, you know, if you're a big US software company or something, which I have experience of, you would still provide the some of the things at the top level. The difference is about how you're empowering the teams at maybe an EMEA or a country level. Because at the end of the day, GSK, a person at GlaxoSmithKline, are going to buy from a local sales team, a local salesperson, and what marketing need to be doing is creating the environment that takes place.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about empowerment. So what does that actually look like for a marketing team, or what's the marketing function? How does it empower people?
I think right back at the start, this is about organizational DNA. This is about organizational DNA. So that empowerment starts as Tim headlined right at the start, the digital organization, the digital transformation. What does it look like? This is a new way of thinking. We've spoken all the way through this. Brandon's led us through a lot of the rudiments and foundations of all of this. Tim's spoken about organizations. We've heard from a CEO about what they're now thinking about their organization. So this isn't just, so we do what we do, and we'll try and stuff on a bit of strategic social on there as well and see what happens. This is a rewire. This is a reset and a refocus, and it's a rethinking, right? Mm-hmm. So this is about completely thinking about all of this in a totally different way. So in this environment, then everyone that joins the organization in their induction phase and their onboarding phase has already been embroiled into a world where social is first. It's digital first. So whether you've joined to work in the mailroom or you're one of the new vice presidents, if you've got a log on and you've got a computer and you've got access to social media sites, and we're going to train you to be safe on social and to do a really good job in helping this organization become successful and thrive in future. And we're all in this together. There's a different way of thinking. It's not just marketing's job. It's marketing's job to make everyone a brilliant marketer.
Yeah. And you know, sorry, my brain's going in two directions. Number one, we have empowered salespeople, executives, marketers for a super long time to walk into a boardroom and have a conversation. We trust them. We train them. They've got to be accountable for what they do in there. If they go in there and they blow it up, they cuss, they, do whatever, they throw a glass across the wall, they got to be accountable for their own behavior. We're not talking about anything different here. I think there's a fear that, we've seen things with cancel culture or whatever, and we go, nobody can talk because we're scared. But it's just not possible. I mean, we're in a digital transformation time. If we look back at the Industrial Revolution and look at those that waited and held on and, I'm still going to ride my horse. Well, they lost the race because the car came along and beat them, right? We can talk about Kodak with digital cameras. We could talk about lots of companies that we've already witnessed that they got left behind in their own industry when they were the dominant player. We've got marketers that have got to have the courage to understand that this isn't a digital nudge. This is digital transformation, and history, I believe, is going to look back on this time and go, wow, what they went through during that time is unbelievable, just like the Industrial Revolution. And I think about this analogy, right, of a butterfly and the transformation. It goes from worm to cocoon to butterfly. There's no nudge, right? The butterfly looks completely different than the worm. And I think we're in an era where everything's going to look completely different. And if we don't make that change, well, we're going to be left behind. We're never going to come out of that cocoon.
Okay, so
I think that's absolutely spot on. I think I don't know if the panel will agree. I think we need more risk takers in marketing. I think it's all become a bit too comfortable and fat and just lazy, and I think we're at a point where creative leaders are falling a bit behind because of the outdated, anchored in the past beliefs about big concepts and big ideas. So the whole, why wouldn't you, if there's a space going for someone to be the digitally dominant player in their sector, in their markets, which marketing leader doesn't want to be that digitally dominant player? Why wouldn't you want to be? I fundamentally believe that the beauty and the art in marketing was the fact that every one of those people back in the day that was in marketing was an absolute lion, an absolute tiger and a lion that wanted to win, So getting that risk appetite back, getting that desire to win back, and be first, be the digital leader in your sector. Who doesn't want to be that? Instead of faffing around with old stuff and we'll try this and we'll throw some of that stuff and see if it sticks to the wall, why not just be the digitally dominant player in your sector? Because in many sectors, in many organizations, that position is up for grabs.
It's up for grabs.
Yeah. So, that's great, Eric.
So you recognize that this is the way forward. You have to be brave. You have to do something different. Social is clearly the answer. You're on social. Your customers are on social. Every year, the customers, there's more of them on social, and they spend more of their time on social, and they're more convincible and conversationable with in that social domain. And you know that using your corporate profile to broadcast and push your content out, A, it doesn't get the coverage, and B, even if it does get the coverage, people are not interested in it because they don't want to hear from your company. They want to hear from you, the people within the company. So as a marketing team, you create a strategy, you onboard the people, you educate the people, you empower those people. Those people start to create content, and then they stop. And now you've lost everything. You don't advertise anymore, you don't email anymore, you haven't got a corporate presence anymore in any of these things because you're relying on the people. What happens then?
It's got to get back to that DNA part. It's got to be, and if it's in the DNA, it's not temporary. It's got to be part of that sort of repeated habit. All of us have tried going to the gym at certain points in our life, and there was a period in time. It might be now because you guys are all fine specimens of the human race. It might be now, but when you start going to the gym regularly, and then you don't go one day, you feel really agitated about the fact that you haven't gone and you haven't worked out. We need to get to the point where we feel agitated that we haven't quite done a really good job with social today. Everybody in the organization needs to feel that little sense of angst that I really haven't, I haven't put any content today. I haven't engaged with any conversations. I haven't, grown my network today. We need to get to that point where it's not just something that marketing want us to do. It's actually something that's in our personal DNA.
It's a team sport.
Yeah.
It needs everybody, every leader, and every individual contributor should understand the need for using social, because we all know that if you're not posting on social, you're invisible anyway to your buyers and
change the internal language and make it the norm. Make it the normal, the new normal.
Yeah, and I think I love that, Eric, would change the language, and what you touched on earlier about maybe we've gotten lazy in marketing. I think marketing got safe because there was a short era there where we could measure very predictably how much money we put into email marketing and how much we would get out, how much we put into PPC and how much we would get out, how much we would put into SEO, and all those things were great. And it was like a spigot. We knew if we turned it up, this was going to come out. It was great. But that time has changed. And so I don't think marketers have gotten lazy. They're just scared, and they've spent a lot of time being safe. And when we've been in a safe environment, our tendency is all to go run back to what we know.
Yep.
And do more of it because it worked before. And that's okay, except we've got to realize, just like the messaging, the information around like the expert industry, the solopreneur, the personal leadership space, one of the things that they say a lot is it's okay to fail. But in business, corporately, we look around the room and go, we know here that it should be okay to fail, but it's not okay to fail. It's not safe to fail. In a digital organization, there's got to be more expectation of failure. And I'm not talking grand failures, right? We have 5 kids, and we've always we parent our kids to a certain age and then we shift into coaching because I want them making small mistakes while they're still under our roof so that once they're on their own, they don't make the big stupid mistakes. Right? There's got to be a culture that allows people to try things and test things and make small mistakes. And the word choice, Eric, you were saying, it made me think of it. One of the best pivot points I can have sometimes with people in talking is just saying, hey, let's take social media and let's throw away the word media and let's take a look at a few different words that we could put behind it and tell me what it makes you think of. Like, what about social networking? What does that make you think of or say when it comes to this tool that we happen to call social? We call it LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. If I say social networking, what do you think? And the conversation goes in different ways. And if you say social broadcasting, right, you say, a few things, you get where I'm going with it. And what happens is we can find a word or a term or start moving them into a vision statement that says, hey, this is the way we're going to use this tool called social. And we are able to get out of that, hey, this is social media. Let me go take a picture of my lunch.
So, I mean, this is perfect. I mean, obviously, we as an organization genuinely believe that this is what the future looks like. But I get for a lot of organizations that this is a scary move. They're moving from a culture of corporate control of the messaging, and they're vesting that control now, if they go down this route, to the staff. And yes, we're talking about onboarding those staff and educating those staff and empowering those staff. We're also encouraging those staff, as your client, Eric, said, to recognize that as an organization, we don't just build widgets, we are also a media organization. And it's contingent on everybody to share stuff. So here's this fantastic thing that I've turned out of aluminium on the lathe, and here's me playing football with my kids, and here's me going out for dinner with a client, and here's me having a good day, and here's me having a bad day, and everybody sharing these things to take their audience on their journey with them. And everybody having their own loved ones in that audience, the people that they went to college with, the people that they used to work with, their life partners, their friends, all of whom are potential audience of influencers or buyers or amplifiers of their message in the marketplace. I mean, that's a beautiful vision, but what are organizations going to do about that safety blanket? They've got an advertising schedule, they've got a media buying schedule, they've got PR, they've got email marketing. Are we suggesting that they just one morning, 1st of November, they turn up in the office, switch all of that stuff off and go, well, it doesn't work anyway? Well, maybe it does. Maybe they're not brave enough to acknowledge that it doesn't, and therefore they don't need it anymore. So how do they bridge the gap between what they were doing that they know is declining into this brave new world that we're painting, where everything's rosy and the business walks towards them?
And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the whole concept of, so what you're saying, I just scrap everything that I do today and start off in a completely new direction.
We did as an organization.
But that's traumatic, right? That's traumatic. Getting back to what Brandon said about safe spaces to test, safe spaces to run tests, run diagnostics, and get data. Run a pilot. Yep. It's a safe way to prove it, because a lot of people out there. There's a beautiful story that we've told a few times where we're sitting around a board table with a lovely C-suite, a very tight team of people, various ages, but their marketing vice president was in his mid-40s, and the MD happened to be in his pushing 60 years old. And I could tell that this was a very psychologically safe organization. You were able to speak openly, and no one's jobs were at risk. They were all a nice tight team. So we discussed the art and science of social selling and influence and what that could mean to them, and discussed their markets. And the MD reached across the table and said, "Can I ask," to his head of marketing, "can I ask a really open question?" They'd worked together for years, very safe together. "Can I ask a really open question? Can you honestly tell me that X amount of pounds that we spent last year on marketing, can you tell me exactly what we got for it? And he said, yeah, I absolutely can. Nothing. Nothing. And he said, hand on heart. And I loved the fact that this was really refreshing for me, because it was a very safe team, very safe with each other. That whole trial and failure piece and all that was kind of accentuated. And this particular marketing lead said, listen, I've been cracking on with a lot of stuff. I did my marketing degree in the early 90s. There weren't even smartphones in those days. And I have had my head down, as have all of my peers and my colleagues, for many, many years. And suddenly I've looked up when everything's getting a bit seized and a bit broken and a bit stiff in what I do. I've looked up to the world, and it's a completely different horizon. It's all changed around me. I don't understand any of this, but by goodness, if we go ahead with this, I'm going to make sure that my team are leading it, and I'm going to be open to all these new concepts, because this has passed me by. And I thought that was a beautiful thing for a professional in marketing to say, that this has passed me by. I don't understand it, but my goodness, am I open to this?
And the thing is they've got outside help in. They recognise that they don't understand it, but they're mature enough to get outside help in and get experts in.
And that's no sign of weakness or any.
It's not a sign of weakness, and it's not about this outside people going to take their jobs or anything like that. It's about saying, we don't understand. Just as much as when you learn to drive, you generally go for driving lessons because you find an expert to come and help you. It's a new experience, and therefore we need that.
Totally.
But what they've done is that they started small with a pilot, and I think that's important. Sorry, Brandon.
I was going to say, when I moved my family from California to Idaho and launched a company, when we first moved there, we rented a house because we wanted to understand the lay of the land. And it was a cheaper investment, right? Until we bought and put down roots. And I think for a lot of companies right now, go rent experts for a while, because it's cheaper than hiring a team and then going, let's figure it out. And I mean, I just think it's wise. And there's people that have spent years researching and doing this, and get everything out of their heads, everything they know, and implement it, and then start to look at, well, now who do we need to hire to keep this thing going? Beta test.
Beta test. We are in the midst, and this might sound a bit romantic, but I firmly believe it. I think we're in the midst of a very, very serious commercial revolution. A very, very serious commercial revolution. A total strip down, rewire, and reset of everything we ever thought about business and what business meant. As in any revolution, there are opportunities to take charge and lead the way. There's also opportunities to sit there and say, I wonder if this will go away. I wonder if this will go back to normal. To sit in that sort of relative space and comfort and hope it isn't going away. We all know that. I think there's an opportunity here to become the pioneers and the leaders and the lions that we once were.
And take charge of this digital dominant space that you talked about earlier on.
Just take it. Yeah, absolutely. Decide, make the decision. We are going to lead this. We are going to lead this. And what does saying those words out loud to a team? We are going to be the digitally dominant players in our sector. How do we do that?
And for marketing teams to say, as you said, Eric, that once we were the leaders of this organization, we were the heroes. We were the people that created the opportunity that the salespeople went and harvested. We planted those seeds. Nice metaphor. Planted those seeds. They went out and just cut the corn, and it was an easy job. And unfortunately, the fields have been barren for a long time. But marketing just needs to rethink what their role is. Previously they've rolled up their sleeves and they've been very hands-on. They've created the tools which they've given to everybody else, but those tools have ended up suffocating how the sales team can have conversations. And that's why those tools don't work anymore. This is like me whispering in your ear, Eric, what you need to go and say to that girl that you want to date. It doesn't work. It needs to be your words. My job is to say, go and chat to her. She's looking at you, not to say, go and say the following words to her. So marketing need to recognize that they're not playing in the orchestra, they're conducting now. They're saying to people, you guys go and try this, you need to say this, this is what we're pushing this particular month. And I think that's probably a good place for us to wrap up today, because we're just coming up to an hour. So I hope that everybody.
Do you want to put that final slide up with the dates?
Yeah, I hope that everybody that's watched has enjoyed this. We've wanted to share some of our ideas about how marketing within organizations needs to transform. So 2 weeks from today, we're going to be talking about sales, how social can help empower sales to do the things that sales needs to do, how salespeople need to behave in this brave new world, and the skills that they need to develop. And then at the end of November, a month from today, we're going to be talking about how a board can embrace this type of thinking to become digital in its most fundamental, most human way through social. So thank everybody who's either watched this live or is going to be watching the recording of it. Thank you to Tim, my business partner. Thank you to Eric, one of our proud partners. Thank you to Brandon, another one of our proud partners. And thank you from me, Adam Gray. And I'll look forward to seeing you all next time.